God's standing here, but I'm like backing away slowly, and then I turn. I'm like,
see you guys.
One moment.
I got this.
You know. Welcome back to In the Midst podcast. I'm Kia.
And I'm Debbie.
And today we're going to be talking about ebbs and flow in faith, and just like the ups and downs, the thing that we've gone through from the beginning of our walks with Christ, and just to this day, like the ups and downs. So we're going to start off by introducing an embarrassing joke by the name of peeling back the onion.
Yeah, it's cheeky, it's funny, but it's a point that it helps with relevance of where we are today. We're like the starting point kind of with our personal relationships.
Yeah.
So like the joke always was like, this was a point where we felt like we had reached Christian nirvana. We were like, oh my gosh, we're just peeling every day. God is just peeling back the onions until you just get to the core of who you are in Christ. Like we just felt.
After 1 year of personal relationship with him, we arrived.
Yeah, we arrived.
Yeah.
Like it was crazy. And I mean, I get it. Sometimes you just, you know, everything is just aligning. Like the desires at that time are being met. Or sometimes you just come from a really, really low place, and then God just does something amazing, and that He heals, you know, pain or heals health or whatever it is, and you're so grateful in that time.
Yeah.
You're so grateful. And I think also this was a place where we finally had a personal relationship with God. Growing up in a Christian home, in a Nigerian Christian home, my faith was lived through my parents. It was a very strict household. And if you are a Christian Nigerian, you can probably most likely relate to this, where super strict. I wasn't allowed to do so many things that people were allowed to do. Wasn't allowed to watch certain things. Like everything was spiritualized. Like, oh my gosh, you can't watch that, that's demonic. You can't do this, you can't do that. And of course, in their understanding, they were trying to protect me. They were trying to do the best that they could for me. Of course, learning as well, like there was forms of manipulation as well. But this had gone to a point, because this was also a point where we had got baptized. We had found a new church, which was super exciting. So being freed from it was like a lot of negative personal things in my own life, to finally finding my own church, getting baptized. And I remember like the testimony I had said at church at that time was, I finally can live my faith on my own, not filtered through my mom or my parents or anything. This is my own personal relationship with God, and it felt so good to finally be able to be free, to be free to live that. Yeah. So that was just like a really positive point. It felt good. It felt really good. Yeah. And how about for you?
For me, I would say 2015. So I grew up with Christian values, and I would say a Christian home, but not your typical. So I wasn't going to church. I didn't go to church every week. And I know that doesn't mean that doesn't take away your Christianness.
This is fine. Yeah.
But I didn't go to church every week. I didn't grow up serving and all of these things, but I knew prayers. My grandma taught me all those prayers. My mom did, always instilled in me. I prayed every single night. I knew my Bible. I had multiple Bibles, all of these things. But I would say I kind of lived, it was cultural though. It's cultural at the end of the day. You have these Christian values because they're the thing to do. You say a rote prayer at night because it's a thing to do. Yeah. But I still live my own life. My life is still compartmentalized. Like, I might do all that I want to do, that I desire to do in the day, and then as long as I say my prayers, I'm covered at the end of the night. So that's how the relationship was for me. But I would say around 2013 is when I started really finding out about what a personal relationship with God looks like. But I would say 2015 is when it really peaked. It would be a Sunday night, and I would be doing my hair, like have a wash day before work the next day, and I would be listening to this preacher, and I don't even listen to this preacher to this, like at this point in my life anymore, but God was using that person to just draw me closer to Him. And like that was one thing I would do. I was in a non-healthy relationship at the time, but I made sure every Sunday night to tune in and watch that preacher, and I was getting convicted. I was getting convicted, and God was honestly pulling my heart at those times. And I honestly think that He forewarned me that it was going to end. So when it did finally, and I think I touched on this in the last episode, when it did finally end, I had confided in obviously other friends, but also in Debbie. God had already been pulling my heart. He had already given me a personal experience to let me know that He was so real. Yeah. But then when I was going through that heartbreak and heartache, I remember reaching out to Debbie, and she would like text me verses in the morning. And that was even a confirmation from God that I am encouraging you in the word through your friend, through the person that I've placed in your life. So that was a turning point for me. And then I was just so excited because I was like, wow, God, you're real. I know you. You speak to me personally. This is amazing. I'm going to pray to you in the morning. I'm going to sing to you at night. Like, it was a high. And that's a good thing.
Like, rejoicing.
Honestly. And
Jubilee. Like, Jubilee time. The tambourine.
Literally. But like, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like that, there's nothing wrong with that, like, new believer zeal. Like, that's a good thing. But I found the problem started when, just like, and I hate to compare, you can't compare God to a new shiny toy. Or like a Gucci bag or something, like something stupid
something
or
that's
frivolous.
personal to you,
something personal to you that you might appreciate. But like any new thing, if you don't put him in his rightful place, like, he's not going to be so shiny anymore because you're approaching him in a certain way, and he might not answer the prayers that you think need to be answered at the certain time, or he might not follow the formula that you subconsciously placed in your head of how he's supposed to work things out in your head. So then devotion with God became like a chore. Like, it became like, I'm doing this because I have to. Kind of like how my relationship was with him before I even knew what a personal relationship was, when I would just say the Lord's Prayer at night and go to bed.
Yeah.
It became that I was saying like personalized prayers for the things I was going through, but it was just, I just got to do this. So yeah,
that's the ebb and flow. That's like the ebb and flow of, I think, every Christian walk. It's you have the highs and the lows. You have moments where you're just feeling so connected. You have a desire to spend with God. You ask God, like, give me this desire, and He is answering those desires. You have this, you're journaling. Because you're also in community. I think also because we were going to church together, it was really exciting. It was a new church. It was it was pouring into us at that time, and so it was such a good. It was a good place to be, and you were just learning different ways of staying connected with God. But then sometimes it happens where it feels like a chore. It feels like I have to do this because it's the right thing to do, because I know that I can't stray too far from God. Because you know what it feels like to be out of God's presence. You know what that feels like. You know how that's bad. So it's you just get to a point where it's like, okay, this is something that I know I need to do. And there isn't wrong with knowing that this is something you need to do, but then we need to be careful that we, like you were saying a point of who the God's identity, like, is the identity of God being changed with something that I'm going through? Do I see God differently than He actually is? Am I seeing Him as a genie? You may not even think that you're doing that, but it's so easy to kind of just sneak in. Like, those feelings can just sneak in where you start to idolize something else above Him because you're like, well, God provides for my needs. Absolutely, He does provide for our needs, but He doesn't provide for our needs in our timing, and that's the thing. He provides for our needs in His timing because He sees all, He knows all. He knows exactly what we need at the right time.
And He wants to grow us. So
absolutely.
He grows us on His time. He sends people to water, but He's the one who does the growing. He sends someone who plants the seed, but ultimately He'll be the one that's going to grow us. And going off of the genie thing, it's so true. I felt like at one point in time, like, because like slowly it was creeping in that, like, okay, God, I know you're real, but the desires I think that I need fulfilled right now aren't being met. So instead of like being honest with God at that time, because I don't even know if I even knew what that really looked like, honestly, like, I don't think I even knew what that looked like per se, but instead of being honest with God in those moments, it was a Christian checklist. I had never been in a church and like served regularly. I didn't know what that looked like. So at that point I was. So it's just like, you know what? Let me sign up for every team. And then I had to check myself and like, is this a pure intention, or is this like just to check off a duty on my Christian checklist? Is this just a token to place into my Christian vending machine?
Wow.
And once I have enough money in there, once I have enough duties, God's, of course, He's just gonna like, He's gonna fulfill my needs.
Jackpot. Blessings flow. And
it's
it's so crazy how in this world where we're so used to getting instant gratification, because we get instant gratification from the things in life today, that it is hard. You become desensitized. Yes, you become desensitized to that. You don't even realize that, okay, I need to actually be patient and wait on what God is doing here. I need to just trust Him in the process of whatever He's working in my life. And so, I mean, from that point we're talking about in 2015 to I guess 2020. Do we want to go into the
Demo Panic?
The Demo Panic?
Right.
The Panasonic? panoramic, whatever you want to call it. Panzerotti,
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, those were some really trying times. Those were really, really trying times.
Yeah.
What was your experience from that point up until, maybe even up until now sometimes? Yeah.
Well, a lot has happened between 2020 to 2021, and I feel like we'll definitely touch on 2021 is its own era. Summer 2021? That's why you see us here. Like, this is what this was birthed from.
This was birthed from 2021, summer 2021.
Yeah, but it definitely started in the pandemic, because I feel like you might not even be satisfied with where you're at, but you have the distraction of going to work every day.
Yes.
Going to an extracurricular, going to the gym in the morning, doing this, doing that, going to church and like serving, like just distraction after distraction after distraction. And something like good things can be distractions. Like, that's not me saying like, oh, serving is just such a bad, no, you need to serve. We're that's what we're here for. But once everything was cut off, there's no more distraction. I'm stuck at this point, I've been working from home for almost 2 years now. But at that point, I'm stuck in my room for essentially 16 hours a day, 8 hours of work. And I'd say 8 hours of sleep, but it's probably 5 hours of sleep with like 3 hours of wasting time.
Yeah.
Like, so you're stuck, like everything has changed. You can't go anywhere and you're just alone with your own thoughts. And it's like, it's so funny. You would think like that's opportune time to connect with God. But sometimes it's like opportune time to actually just connect with your distractions.
Yeah.
To connect with to amplify your dissatisfaction with Him.
Wow.
Like, I found that's exactly what happened. To amplify your impatience with Him. And I guess even going into that is a major thing for me in the pandemic, in the beginning of March 2020. 2 years prior, I had started off paying off my debts. And I remember, I don't even remember what day it was, but beginning of March, I finally paid off my student loans.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so excited for that because I'm like, wow, I can like loosen the reins a little bit. I can like let go of some restrictions. I can start living my life. I can start traveling again, doing these things. 2 days later, we're in a lockdown.
Yeah.
So it was
crazy.
like door shut in my face.
A high to a low.
Literally.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that, I don't even know if I vocalized it, but now that I look back at it in hindsight, I realize that was such a disappointment to me. And I was just like, okay, well, I tried to do one thing. I tried to be a good steward, and now I can't even enjoy my hard work. So that, I look back at it now and I realize that's what it was, but I think I was kind of like...
You were hit with a major disappointment.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But I didn't know at the time. I didn't really recognize it at the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the pandemic was hard. And I would say maybe towards the end, like December 2020, like... I don't even know if this makes, like... December 2020, maybe I came to a better realization, but then some dating woes started. So... that even was a whole other can of worms. Like, I thought I was good, and then I realized I wasn't. So,
and with what you're saying in regards to that, it's so interesting that God will sometimes shake your foundation. You think you come to this understanding of who God is, but then He wants to shake your foundation to make sure you are firmly rooted in Him.
Yeah.
You actually do have a good understanding of who God is.
Yeah.
And I can see that in my own life, because when you grow up in a Christian home where things are kind of, I don't know, like religiosity. It's kind of like a give and take kind of relationship with God. I had to really, it was a lot of work to change my mindset of who God was. And so it was like different kind of things I would go through, and it's like, okay, I have a better understanding. I'm understanding God in a new way. Okay, this makes sense. I'm being connected with different people that are helping me understand God for myself. But then sometimes you hit an all-time low, and you don't even recognize that. And I feel like I'm a pretty positive, happy-go-lucky person, but during the pandemic, this was a period that I realized, like, when I look back, I was going through depression. I was in despair. It was like prior to that, so I had to come back early from Teachers College in Wales, which was such an exciting experience. And then it was all of a sudden Trudeau looking into the camera and saying, Canadians, please come home. So it was just like, oh, okay, so I'm coming home for sure. So it was, and you kind of are like, okay, it is what it is. There isn't much you can do about that. And then kind of thinking to yourself, is this something that's gonna kind of end on its own eventually? But then it's not. I had to move in with my dad at that time just because of like how quickly I had to come home. And I had not lived with my dad since I was maybe 10. Like, I was a child. My parents got divorced when I was really young. So it was such a hard experience living with my dad. And I love him to death. Like, I love him. He's my twin. I love him. But it was really, really hard living with him. And then on top of that, I was waiting. Like, I was so excited to get into my career. I was like, oh my gosh, I know this is what I want to do. I've always wanted to be a teacher. I'm finally getting this done. And then there was just so many hurdles and setbacks with that. And then all these other unmet desires with relationships. I was just in complete despair. I was just looking at everyone else and feeling like everyone else's prayers were getting answered, but mine were not. And what was really scary around that period of time was points where I would literally lay down and think to myself, or like I would just hear this, like, God doesn't exist. Not like, does God, it wasn't even a question. It was like, God doesn't exist. And that was super scary. Like, that shook me at times, because I'm like, if God doesn't exist, what is the purpose of my life? What is the purpose of my life? And like, understanding now, it's like that was the enemy getting into my ears, like getting into my mind, really trying to make me, I don't even know. Like, I guess that's something I have to even still work through, but and not in terms of that emotion, but at that time, that's what I was feeling. And I think I was just part of depression and the despair at that time. But those were really scary thoughts that would come in and out. But yeah, so from there, it's just having this understanding that God was shaking a foundation. Like, looking back now, I think to myself, like, wow, I see what you were doing in that, God. I see how you were still using me despite, and I remember I was helping out at church doing like a course where it was helping new Christians in understanding faith, and I didn't even feel qualified, because I was like, I mean, yes, I've been a Christian for most of my life, but do I understand theology on that level? I would compare myself to my youngest brother, for instance, who was in seminary. Yeah, he was in seminary, and he was just a wealth of wisdom. Comparison is of the devil. Do not compare yourself. But I would do that. I would compare. I just felt like I wasn't enough, but I did it anyways. I did it with someone else, which was quite helpful. And I would pour into people, which felt nice. It felt good, encouraging people. But then it's so interesting, you forget that same encouragement you're giving to someone for yourself. I would forget about it. It would slip my mind, it was just really, really hard. Yeah. So what did you do to get yourself out of that place, or what did God have to do to get you out of that place?
I think even before touching on that, I'm going to touch on my doubt in God as well, even during that time, because the other person that she did the course was me. Like, we led the course together, but the way that Debbie felt may have had some imposter syndrome. I also experienced that imposter syndrome, because even though I didn't doubt God, I was at a disgusting place where I was just like, I don't doubt you, God. I know you're real. You're a tyrant, though. Like, and that soul-facey, dry, bright, and stink for me to even like come out of my mouth. Like, I think about that and I cringe, because how dare I? Yeah. But honest, like, I had to be honest with how I was feeling. I was like, especially after like the March thing and like everything happening and just like the door feeling shut in my face. I was like, God, your only this sounds foolish to come out of my mouth now, but your only desire is to dangle a carrot in front of my face. And then when I get close enough to just snatch it. You just want to spoil my life.
And that's crazy, because you know that isn't who God really is. Like, deep in your core, you know this, but life situations start blinding you, and then your view of God starts changing. Yeah. Your view of God actually starts changing, where that becomes your reality. Yeah. And even like for the course that we were leading as well, same thing. Like, I would go, and just transparency, I remember getting on the Zoom call at sometimes and being like, yo, I hope no one shows up, because I don't want to do this. Like, let's just be honest. There were times I was like, I hope no one shows up, because I don't want to do this, and I'd rather do something else right now. Yeah. But that was definitely rooted in like my annoyance with God. And like, I don't know. I don't even know. How do I even say this? It wasn't warranted at all. It was wrongfully warranted. I have no reason to be annoyed with him, because I can look back over my life and see the ways that he's come through for me many times. But it was just such a hard time during that year. And that's the ebb and flow. That is literally the ebb and flow of the Christian walk.
Yeah.
Of many people, anybody. You just get through points and times in life where you feel unheard, completely unheard from God, because he's not answering you in the way that he has in the past or the way you want him to.
Yeah.
You just get stuck. You're stuck in the place. You're in a ditch and you cannot get out.
Yeah, literally. It's crazy, but...
Or when things are good, when things are really good before that too, you can take him for granted. And when you take him for granted, then you kind of forget about the way that God operates sometimes.
I'm paraphrasing this, but just like reading this morning, Proverbs 30, I believe it's 8 to 9. And he, the person who wrote the proverb is talking to God and just saying like, don't give me riches and don't give me poverty, because in riches, I will say, who are you? And in poverty, I might curse you, or I might bring dishonor to your name because I'm stealing, I'm doing this thing. And that's so true, because in those high times, you might not say from your mouth, who's God? Like, I don't believe in you anymore. No, I still believe in you, but it's just like,
thank you.
Thanks.
I got this.
Yeah.
I can take it from here, God.
Exactly.
Or
in the low times, like,
that's when you're groveling for
exactly. Yeah.
That's when you're literally groveling, but then sometimes you get tired of groveling. You're done. Like, because I think that's what I was dealing with, was that I was like, okay, God, help me.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was getting nowhere.
Yeah.
And so you're just like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just tired. So I'm just gonna, I'm going to self-medicate. I'm gonna help my wounds in my own way.
Right.
And going back to bad habits. So. Yeah. What was the point we were going to get back to?
You. I think you had said, "What did I do to get past this?"
Or what did God have to do?
What did God have to do in me?
Yeah.
I think God really had to just show me. He just really had to remind me, or not even remind me, but let me sit in my nonsense for a little bit to actually reflect and get a heart of gratitude. I think that's the first thing, to really reflect and like realize, okay, Kia, you're working from home, but are you not working? Like, you have a job. There are people who literally lost their job.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 days into the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like, no way to pay a bill. I'm paying my bills. I'm paying off debt in a pit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there are huge wins in my life. And even if not, like, I'm eating. Even if not, I have breath in my lungs. Even if not, I have a wonderful family that I live with. Like, my grandma I can go upstairs, I can crack jokes with. My mom I can talk to about anything with. My stepdad who we can just share sarcasm with, all like blessings. And just realizing like there was good things that came from the pandemic. Like, even I have never gone on more hikes in my life.
Oh wow, yes.
2020, like,
that was a point where I never walked more in my life.
Seriously.
Than at this point either. I would go on walks everywhere. So that was
seriously.
I got in the best shape of my life.
No, fam. 2021, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, workouts still take place all the time, but 2021, my phone likes to remind me that I was walking more in 2020.
Wow.
And it's like, because I actually, like, what else was there to do? Everything was closed. But like, I remember having some of the best devotion times, because I would wake up at 6 a.m., go on a morning walk with my audio Bible. Shout out to Streetlights Bible.
Ooh,
audio
that's okay, please.
Shout out to Streetlights.
That's an amazing app. An amazing app. I love that app.
But I would go on morning walks with that in my ear and just have, like, start my day off amazing. Like, and I wish, like, I need to do that again. But just a heart of gratitude, first of all, and just making the most of it. That was the start of everything. Yeah. Recognizing just how much I am blessed, and like recognizing that, okay, if I'm feeling a certain way, this is how I even came to God. When I was feeling away and I was feeling despair, that's where God met me. So if I could be raw and honest in how I was feeling at the beginning of my walk, why did it stop me now? Why did I get to this point of I need to come to God a certain way and pretend like everything is okay? When I have an issue or a problem that I want to bring to my friend, I'm honest and I'm raw about it.
That's your personality.
Yeah, you know? So how come I can't be raw and honest with the only one who can fix it? So that was something that I realized. I had to be raw and honest with God. And like, I think about the one verse in Mark where there's a father and his son is possessed by an impure spirit. And Christ is like, do you believe in me? Like, do you believe I can heal this boy? And the father says, I believe, help my unbelief. So I had to just be honest in that prayer.
I love that prayer. That prayer is such an honest, it answers everything about the ebb and flow of the Christian walk.
Exactly.
I believe, but help my unbelief.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens. You just have unbelief.
Yeah.
You're just in complete despair at certain points. And you're just like, God, help my unbelief because I can't do it. I'm drowning.
Yeah.
I'm drowning. Like, I'm drowning. I can't
Yeah.
do this. I love that. That's really, I love that verse as well.
Yeah.
I really love that. Some of the things that I remember doing to kind of help me, because this ebb and flow, I feel like it was like an ebb and flow that kind of went up, and then it was an ebb and flow of like really up and down at a lower level. And some of the things I remember doing that really helped was like journaling a lot, and then rereading my old journal entries, and that was my way of remembering and reminding myself of how faithful God has always been in my life. From some of the very worst, darkest moments, even prior to this, seeing how God had been very apparent in my life and been so good to me. So those, reading my journal entries, and I mean, everyone connects with God in different ways. For me, it's definitely writing my prayers down and just my thoughts. But just rereading those things really, really helped. And then having a creative outlet as well. I kind of use that time to kind of share like devotionals, and just be creative and create videos and help other people. Because I was like, let me try and take the focus off of myself and help other people. And that was really, really helpful. And just getting encouragement from friends. Part of my despair was that I am an extrovert. I am majorly an extrovert, and I like being in the presence of my friends. And so we would talk to each other all the time, but it was hard not seeing friends. But talking to different friends who encouraged me, who pushed me to do different things, that really, really, really helped. But yeah, so before we go into final takeaways, was there anything you wanted to add?
Nothing really.
Okay.
Nothing really. I think we can. was even going to bounce off of what you just said about like being an extrovert.
Please.
I think it's so important to stay connected. Like we need to stay connected and surrounded and we need to be vulnerable in those connections. Like God places those people in our life for a reason. And I would say in 2020, like exactly like we were all separated.
Yes,
but like
yes.
I was even blessed during that time. And I'm an introvert, so it's very tempting and easy for me to even isolate myself sometimes and be like, yep, I'm gonna deal with this alone, or I don't even want to put the effort into even. I trust like at that moment, and it's better now. But like maybe I trust like a few people, and sometimes like I'll talk to them. But like I don't know how I'm even trying to articulate this. But anywho, during that time, it's so funny. Like I had like a forced connection, but a good one, because I was working out with a very close friend who was training me at that time, and every morning for 3 days a week, we would talk and have amazing conversation, and even if I might not see a friend for the rest of the week, at least we were able to see each other and encourage each other, which was like such an amazing, like that strengthened our friendship a lot during that time. And just staying connected, it's so necessary. It's so necessary. Even if I think that was even important because everything was online, small groups were online, and even that, obviously that was great. And like we would talk to each other on the phone, or you talk to other friends on the phone or text, but sometimes you really just need to even see
flesh,
a friend in person.
I need to hug you. I need to feel you. Like,
exactly.
Absolutely. I need to see you face to face.
Yeah. We just have to avoid the temptation of isolating ourselves.
Absolutely.
Especially we were already in forced isolation in a pandemic, a demo panic. But we were already in forced isolation, so you have to put even more effort into being connected
and reaching out and getting that help. So what do you do when you are feeling far from God, unheard, unloved, like he does not care, like he's yanking the carrot away from you as soon as you get right close to biting it? The first thing that I want to share is you are not alone. You are not alone in this at all. One thing that helped was talking about this with different friends and realizing they were experiencing the same thing. Everyone, there are believers all over it, from not even people who are believers, like everyone is feeling similar emotions, similar situations. And so knowing that you are not alone, that you are not meant to carry this burden on your own, that you can have that you have supporters, you have people that care and truly want to be there for you and want to help pour into you. So just reminding yourself that you are never ever alone in your feelings of not even wanting to be in God's presence, not even desiring to want to talk to him. You're never alone in that.
Yeah, and I think we kind of already touched on this before, but I'll reiterate it just for the takeaways. Pray vulnerable prayers. The same honesty you might bring to your friends, bring that to God who can actually change it. Don't be afraid to do that. Don't think that you have to come to him and present yourself as some, like, he knows he knows the state of your heart. He knows exactly what you're going through, but bring that to him. Open up your mouth, release it. Like,
I love
that's
that.
so necessary for healing.
Absolutely. I love that because he knows you better than you know yourself. So when you come, I think one thing we were discussing before as well was sometimes you go into these prayers numb. You come into these prayers completely numb, and you're just like, okay, like you're so distracted as well. Your mind is somewhere else, and you just come into the prayers numb. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to express yourself, but you just sometimes have to be honest and be like, I'm drowning, I'm sinking, I cannot do this. And God is an ever-present help when we are in need. Like, he really is there to help us. Another point is to stay connected and surrounded, and that can be hard in isolation, especially when the Babylon is telling you to stay away and not talk to other people. I mean, thank God things are very different now, but stay connected in any form, whether that's in person or through video calling, whatever that is, and be vulnerable also in those connections, whether that is like through connect groups, through friends that you trust in, whether that is through trusted leaders as well in your church, or mentors, whatever that looks like, because it is, like you were saying, it is really easy, it's tempting to isolate yourself and keep, especially if you feel like repeating yourself. That's the one thing that I hate doing, is that I hate bringing up the same thing over and over to my friends, but then to God, because I'm like, I know you're tired of me. I know you're over me, but that's so not true. He is never tired of me. He's long suffering. He's so incredibly patient with me. So I should never ever think that he is over it, that he doesn't want to hear from me. But it's my own personal frustrations. I'm tired of myself. I'm tired that I keep going around the same mountain. I keep struggling with the same things, that I feel the same kind of despair. But so making sure that you are honest and raw in those connections that you make with other people.
Yeah, and I think another thing is what we actually believe about God. So sometimes our circumstances will skew what we believe about him. So if I'm going through a certain thing, it's because, and it's so crazy how we always want to blame him when we're going through things. Like, but that's just, I don't know,
human nature. We're gross.
Yeah, we are.
No, honestly, like, it's ridiculous sometimes.
Yeah.
It's shameful. Like, we
love to scapegoat him.
We love to scapegoat him. It's such an easy way, because accountability. Sometimes we just lack accountability, or certain people have the accountability and then they just beat themselves up. Everyone has different ways of dealing with things because of different forms of trauma they may have experienced or whatever they've learned. Yeah. I think we were talking about at one point how some households you're taught to keep things to yourself. Don't share those things.
Why you put business out the door?
No, honestly.
Why are you like honestly, I can't even say that was me, because like me and my mom have a very honest relationship and I'm blessed for that, but that's people's reality. That's people's reality. Sometimes you know like a friend or even a family member might be going through things, and you even approach them and they're just shut off. Yeah. And it's like you can't even be mad at it, because it's just like maybe you just don't even know how to express.
Absolutely.
But that's upbringing sometimes. Like, what do you mean you're putting people's business out in the street? And it's not even about putting people's business out in the street. Like, you might actually be hurting, but you're so scared of repercussion from family or what other people might think that you you hide it and you bottle it in.
Yeah. But it's making sure what you believe about God lines up with what his word actually says. Exodus 34:6-7 talks about the character of God, and he passed in front of Moses proclaiming, the Lord, the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness, maintaining love to thousands and forgiving wickedness, rebellion, and sin. Yet he does not leave the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children and their children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation.
Lord me God.
Lord me God. Lord me God. No, honestly though, but this is such an amazing verse, and there's so much to unpack. And something I would recommend, if you're on the Bible app, there is a devotional by the Bible Project called The Character of God that really, really goes in depth with these verses. So definitely recommend going into that because there's so much to unpack that it's best that you take a look at that on your own and get that revelation there. And then lastly, it's just, lastly, with that point of understanding the character of God, is just casting your cares and anxieties because he truly cares. Like, trust in God and cast these cares onto him. He actually truly cares for us and what we're going through. I'm trying to remember a verse. If I remember it, I'll mention it afterwards. But a verse that just talks about that he cares about every single detail of our life. Like, do you know the verse I'm referring to? That he cares about every detail of our life. I'm trying to think of it. If I don't remember, I'll come back to that. But anyways, the next point. Did you want to go to that?
So the next point, I think this kind of bounces off that last part of Exodus 34, 6 and 7. So at the end, it talks about how God doesn't leave the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children and their children for their sin, and the parents to the third and fourth generation. And you might hear that and be like, that's harsh.
Yeah.
Dang. But like, he's just. And sometimes you have to like sit back and ask yourself, am I honoring you in my actions? Like, I know you will never leave me. I know nothing I can do will separate me from you. But sometimes I am deliberately doing things in my life that are causing me self-destruction because it's fun. Like, because it's actually fun.
Sin is fun.
Sin's fun.
Sin is very attractive.
And like, God's standing here, but I'm like backing away slowly, and then I turn and
I'm like, see you guys.
one moment.
I got this.
You know Homer in the bushes? Like,
just slowly.
like, that's what you do sometimes.
Absolutely.
But he never left. And then sometimes when you get in those bad habits, then you're just like, well, God, I know you don't want to talk to my trifling behind, so I'm gonna be here, and then you separate yourself from him. But we have to just step back and be like, God, am I being displeasing to you?
Yeah.
Am I doing things that I know I should not be doing, that I know is not these things are not glorifying you?
Mm-hmm.
Am I doing these things? And if you are, be honest with yourself. Be honest with those. Confess to your friends.
Yes.
Confess to the people he's placed in your life that you can trust.
Yeah. Confess your sins to one another.
Yeah.
Having what is it called? Having when you're doing something and just having someone that is your, oh my gosh,
accountability.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Accountability. Having an accountability partner.
Yeah.
Like, I am struggling in this. I need you to help me with this, because we're not alone in this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And have them pray for you, and then you, in turn, go to God, be honest in your raw prayers, repent, and turn away from it. Like, actually turn away. And if you're struggling in that turning away, like it's an actual struggle, that's why we can go to him and be like, I am struggling with this. Help me, please.
And the thing is, he will direct you in getting the help you need, whether that is through therapy, talking to a pastor, completely just healing that, whatever it is, he always does answer. It's just sometimes it doesn't happen on our timeline, and we need to step away from thinking things have to happen in our timeline. We need to trust God's process. We need to have faith in who he said he is, and trust that he's accountable. He's the most accountable. He will never ever stray away from who he said he is. Like, that is, he's true to his title.
Yeah.
And yes, the verse I was talking about earlier was Psalm 37:23. God directs the steps of the godly, and he delights in every detail of their life. I love that verse, because it's like God, who is just like the creator of this universe, the creator of this galaxy, cares about the little details in my life. Like, he actually directs my steps, and he cares about those small details. Right. I think that's so powerful, and it's so amazing to know that there is a father that actually cares about me in that way. And then the next point, the last point, is keep persevering, keep pushing through. You may be running on empty. You may be feeling like, I have no more strength. I have no more power to do this. I can't. I am sinking. When you don't feel like reading your word, push through and read a devotional. Do something small, and build from there. And don't beat yourself up for it when you don't do it the way you had hoped, or the way you think you should. When you don't feel like praying, pray. Even if it's a small quick prayer, whatever it is. When you feel numb and you feel like you can't speak, know that the Holy Spirit speaks on our behalf. He knows what we're going through and what we're feeling, and God is there to see us through in that way. Do you want to go into the next part of that? Yeah,
definitely. And I think as well, a big thing for me that I've recognized is removing distractions. Like, sometimes, especially in the pandemic, like, because you could, well, especially during that time, but also just in life in general, it's so easy to be filled to fill your time and your life up with distractions.
Oh,
So
okay.
I might set aside a time and be like, I'm gonna pray from like 6 in the morning till 7. But then my brain is somewhere else. My brain is on window shopping, or it's on what I wanna watch on YouTube next, or what show I wanna watch, or I'm gonna go work out in an hour, and just focused on that. I'm so focused on my distraction that I'm not even focused on spending time with him. And then I'm there on my knees or I'm sitting in my bed trying to pray, but like there's nothing.
And you're just, like, that point is literally something I'm even realizing right now. I'm so easily distracted, and it's realizing if you're giving your mind constantly mental junk food, so constantly being on social media, constantly watching videos, constantly being on Netflix, you know, just doing the things that gives your brain the dopamine release.
Yeah.
And it's the junk food that your brain likes. Like, you like this stuff, and you're constantly feeding it. It is going to be harder for you to get those dopamine releases from reading the word, reading a book. I used to be the biggest book reader. I can barely. Recognize I have to do a lot of reworking in my brain. It's so difficult for me to even read a book for leisure sometimes, because my brain is like, that isn't exciting anymore. We need to do something different. So sometimes you need to just take those distractions away, like do a fast. And so in order so that you can stay focused when you're in need of those times in God's presence, praying or reading the word, or worshiping, whatever that looks like. So it's definitely having the self-discipline to do those things, and that can be very difficult.
Definitely. And I think as well, like, sometimes we get to a place where you do get to a low, you do get to empty, but then you go to God and you fill up to a quarter tank, and then you're just like, okay, I'm in Toronto and I need to drive to Montreal, but I'm just gonna fill my tank up, quarter tank. I got this, God. I got this. And then you're standing on the side of the road like,
I'm stuck. I'm stuck. Like, God, I'm really in trouble right now.
Crying crocodile tears. But he had sorry, that line is so funny. But like, crying crocodile tears, but he actually he was trying to fill your tank anyways.
Literally. I'm sorry, when you say crocodile tears, it's like the trauma. Like, my family would be like,
Stop y'all cry your crocodile tears. Why you always cry?
because we're both big babies.
No.
We both cry all the time.
At
I feel like you cry even more than
I
do.
do.
I thought I was emotional, then I'm like, fuck, it's
No.
emotional.
Anything.
That's another episode, trauma. We're gonna get into trauma. Oh my goodness, childhood trauma. Anyways, but yes, sorry, what you were saying about the crocodile tears.
Yeah, like we come to the crying crocodile tears, and he's like, but I'm here. I've been here. I never left you. Like, it's up. Like, come to me. Like, I'm the spring that doesn't. It will never run dry. So why are we just taking like little tablespoons of him? Like, we need to actually go to him and fill up on him. Like, and even as simple as like praying for your day. Like, sometimes I'll even go through my day and I'm like, I didn't even pray over my day, and I'm wondering why I want to cuss out my coworker.
Hey,
God of mercy.
But no,
for real.
But, you know, like,
but
I heard someone say cuss a heifer clean out, and I actually like, why not?
It's like, clean out. No,
like,
honestly,
but for real though, like,
honestly,
it's ridiculous.
God help.
God help. And I'm like, oh, I have no patience. Oh, I probably because I was distracted during my devotion. Like,
Literally, and it's no, what you're saying is such a good point about filling up that tank, because in your jobs, as a teacher, I'm looking at these children like, who friggin' raised you? Who raised these children? I'm like, wow. I'm sorry, disclaimer to all parents. I know I am not a parent, so I should not be speaking of this, but disclaimer to all parents. Your child is the problem sometimes.
The drama. Your child's the drama.
Your child is like, am I the drama? Yes, you are the drama. God help me. See, this is where I need to fill up.
You know.
Because, oh my goodness. But yeah, that is such a good point.
Yeah.
So basically, to end, we're just gonna say a really, really good word in Jeremiah 29:13. You will seek me and you will find me when you seek me with all of your heart. So I loved this discussion.
This was so good.
This was so good.
Yeah.
This was fun. This was exciting, and it was such a good reminder for both of us. And we pray that it is a blessing to you as well. So that is the end of this episode.
Yes.
Take care and have an excellent day.